Hello and welcome to today's edition, a Sunday edition of Weekend Waypoints, a production of SEC Extra and D1Baseball.com. I'm your host, as always, Joe Healy. We're here to talk about Saturday's action around the SEC. A busy day, a couple double headers, put a couple of extra games on the board for SEC teams. Also just busy from the standpoint of a lot of high-profile games. So we'll recap that. We'll take a quick peek ahead at Sunday's action before we get out of here. We'll name a player of the day and a pitcher of the day from Saturday. Got a busy show ahead. I see in the comments already, Scott. I hope everyone is like Scott and has their coffee ready to go. I've already hit the coffee going. I learned yesterday I didn't have water next to me yesterday and regretted it, so I was a little more prepared today. So let's get into it. First things first, we always start with the game of the day from the previous day. We will do that here as well. It happened to be the game I was at, which is always nice when it works out that way. But man, Alabama 8, Oregon State 7. This was a nerve-shredding game late in the proceedings. You can see here in the line score, Alabama's up to a 6-0 lead, and I have to admit, at that point, I kind of thought, okay, Alabama's gonna, this is gonna be like when they beat Iowa the night before, 12-2. Now, obviously, I think Oregon State's better than Iowa, but so I wasn't ruling Oregon State making a run out, but I thought Alabama would continue to score at the same pace, and two things happened. One is Oregon State woke up offensively, and then Alabama's offense went quiet for a few innings, and it allowed Oregon State to get back in it. So you see in the line score, it was 6-0, then it was 6-5, then it was 8-5, then it was 8-7, and that's the way it finished at 8-7. Just a crazy game. We'll go to the ninth inning because really I feel like this game, it's almost like this game had multiple chapters. There was chapter 1, which is Alabama jumping out to a huge lead. There was chapter 2, which is Oregon State making a run at it. And then the ninth inning, really the bottom of the ninth inning, was really a chapter in and of itself. You see Hagan Banks came in to pitch the ninth, a veteran arm they trust quite a bit. And Rob Vaughn after the game said that, I thought he pitched pretty well, and Oregon State just hit some pitchers' pitches and put together good at-bats, and that was really all it was. But it starts off with a single hit by pitch. Alabama challenged to see if it actually hit him or perhaps that he'd leaned in. It did not, so bases loaded. Easton Talt with a single drives in a run. And then this is when it really starts to get interesting because at that point, it's 8-6. Bases still loaded. Hagan Banks gets what you think is going to be a double play ball. It's hit right to Justin LeBron, and he just boots it. You could kind of see as he is approaching the ball, it's almost like in real time you could see him getting a little bit sped up, thinking about having to make a quick toss to second base. Kind of hits him in the heel of the glove, bounces away from him, another run scores. And at that point, at this point for Alabama, it's 8-7, and you're kind of thinking they're just going to have to, they're going to be fortunate to get out of this with it just going to the 10th, going to extra innings. But the next play changed it. Glasgow, who came in as a pinch hitter for Oregon State back in the 5th inning, hits one to, I would say, medium depth right field. Peyton Steele's out there. He makes the catch. Runner tags at 30, throws home. And in the moment, Rob Vaughn admitted that he was like, no, because he wanted the throw to one of two things. Either wanted the throw to go into third, or he wanted the throw low enough to possibly be cut off. It was neither. It sailed all the way home, but then he realized as it was about halfway there that, there's a chance they're going to get him. And it was just a wonderful throw right on the money. Quick tag by Brady Neal. Runner is out at the plate. So all of a sudden you have a double play there. Oregon State challenged it. Call stands. He was out. There's your double play. They intentionally walk A.J. Singer. And then this fielder's choice, this description, Haight reached on a fielder's choice, Singer out at second, shortstop to second base, doesn't really fully capture it because it was another ground ball to Justin LeBron. This one took a little bit of a funny hop on him. I'll give him credit for that. This was not just a boot. It did kind of hop on him a little. But regardless, he bobbles it, picks it up, and tosses to second base just in time to get the out to end the game. There's a scenario where this game ends on this game is tied and we're still playing, right? Instead of it ending the way it did. But just like I said, an on the edge of your seat type of ninth inning for Alabama. And Rob Vaughn after the game said, well, a couple things that stood out. One is just that he knew Oregon State had a run in him. He's got a lot of respect for that program. He made that very clear. So he knew they were going to make a run, but he also said, like, this is how Alabama is going to win games. We're going to be we're going to be tough. Like, these are the types of games that Alabama is going to have to win. And I kind of agree with him. When you get into SEC play, you're going to have to win some games where you either don't play well or you have to just survive. When you're not crazy talented, and they obviously got some very talented guys there for Alabama, but they're not the most talented team in the conference by a long shot. So, they're going to have to win some games where they just kind of out tough the other team. And I think this was a great example. So, fun game. But if you're an Alabama fan, it was a wild ride there at the end, because you couldn't be sure that you were going to make it to the end. All right. See, we got some comments waiting, so I'll go over and deal with those. Let's see here. Austin Larroquette says, good morning, UCLA looks like a wagon. Mississippi State versus UCLA going to be a great one. Yeah, it absolutely will be. We'll see if there's anything that can kind of stop the train that is UCLA at this point. Make a note. Just thinking of that made me remember something. So hang on one second. I'm going to write a note for myself. There we go. You guys get to see the whole production. It's just me. So if I make a mistake and forget to note something, you're going to see me do it live on the show. I said yesterday that UCLA is just like a professional outfit, and it's just like they've just put professional beatdowns on Tennessee and A&M the last 2 days. And so I'm fascinated to see what we get in game 3 here today as well, because Mississippi State also looks pretty good, especially offensively. Scored 15 runs yesterday. I won't be there, obviously, but I'm looking forward to streaming that game and kind of having my divided attention between the game in front of me and the game on my screen, which is something I normally don't do. I try to stay locked in on the game I'm at, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to with that game. Ace Man says, guys, I can confirm UCLA is really good. Thank you for that analysis, Ace Man. I think we all agree with that one. Tucker Medlin says, morning, Joe. Good morning, Tucker. Made my first trip to Arlington, and this ballpark is fantastic. It helps when State is up big, too. True, that does help. You tend to have a better experience in a ballpark when your team is up big. It is a very nice ballpark. I think the thing that struck me the first time I went there, the first time I went there was a Big 12 tournament. I wasn't at D1 yet. I was at Baseball America. And I was covering the Big 12 tournament there in 2022. And I was just, the size of it is what struck me. And not just like the actual, field part of it and the stands and all that, the seats, but just like the concourses, like, were really wide and really tall. And that stood out to me, just the sheer size of it. Because from outside, it looks like a big ballpark from outside, but from outside you can't, because so much of it is dug into the ground, you can't see the enormity of the stadium. So yeah, it's definitely an impressive structure. All right, scrolling, hang on one second. Getting the Brews headed to the stadium to watch Tennessee versus Virginia Tech soon. That is what I always say is the worst part about this job is that there are games going on. I love this job, but the worst part about it is that there's sometimes I just want to be able to go to a game as a fan and have a beer and watch a baseball game. And, at the college level anyway, I don't get to do that anymore. So that is kind of, there's kind of a bummer there. So I'm a little bit jealous of you there. Call out, have fun today at the ballpark. Austin Larroquette says, is Tennessee reminding anyone of A&M last year? Is it just me? Yeah, this got brought up on, I forget if it was yesterday or the day before. I guess it had to have been yesterday because it was after the first loss, but or after the loss. Yeah, I think that's fair, and I think it's fair on a couple of levels. One is like these transitions when you've had a very high profile coach at a job for a while. Although I guess at A&M, Schloss wasn't there very long, but he certainly was a big name, cult of personality kind of coach, like a guy who is very singular. And you take that guy out, there's a vacuum there, and you can fill that vacuum with really talented coaches that have bright futures and all that stuff. And it's just not going to be the same. And I think there is a transition period there. And I think we saw it last year at A&M, and maybe we're seeing it at Tennessee. Now, good win yesterday. If they get another win today against Virginia Tech. That's a pretty good weekend. So they're still kind of chugging along. But then again, at this time last year, so was A&M, right? Like they were getting some close calls, but they were kind of winning games. We're going to have to see, we're going to have to see how that plays out in SEC play, because that's really when we learn who's who and what's what. Nicholas Doherty says, morning, Joe. So far this weekend, who or what team is making a statement and one team that is showing things to worry about? Give me a second. Let me look at my sheet here. I mean, I didn't like that Vanderbilt took that loss, that loss to Arizona yesterday, a team that came into the game 1-8. Two things kind of worry you there. One is the offense reverting. Now they faced a good pitcher in Smith Bailey, who for Arizona, who's helped pitch Arizona to Omaha last year. So that could just be that, as a function of that. But there's also worry that about Austin Nye. He came out of the game injured. The word after the game is biceps tightness, which is a phrase that I don't love, to be honest, because it's soft tissue. Soft tissue injuries are obviously trickier in general, but anything, and I'll get to the side so you can see my arm here, anything kind of in this general vicinity makes me nervous, just because you start to get into the range where those types of injuries tend to be the ones that cause pitchers to miss significant time. Now, I don't know if this is the case there. I'm just telling you that the phrase biceps tightness makes me a little nervous. So I worry a little bit about Vanderbilt on a couple of fronts there. Is the offense reverting to a little bit of the form that we've seen before? And then second of all, the Austin Nye injury, because they're a worse off pitching staff if Austin Nye misses significant time. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And Florida and Mississippi State, I think, are two teams that have really impressed me this weekend, because this is a good Miami team Florida is handling, and they did a nice job yesterday coming from behind early in that game. And you get down early to Miami, and you're playing in Coral Gables, and that's a pretty good atmosphere during this rivalry series, and it's easy to let that game get away from you. And Florida just didn't let it happen. They didn't get a great start out of Aiden King, because Aiden King came out of the game as well. After the game, it sounded like that was cramps, which is about as good news as you can possibly have when a pitcher leaves a game early, is that it was just cramping. That's the official word there out of Florida. But to not get that, not get a typical start out of Aiden King, to fall behind early in that game, and then to come back and win that game is really impressive. And then State has, yesterday we saw when that lineup is really, really cooking, how scary it can be. Now, you would have preferred probably not to give up the 8 runs, and Virginia Tech kind of kept adding on late. It looked like for a while State was going to run rule that thing, and they just couldn't quite get it done, and Virginia Tech kind of kept adding on. So if you want to nitpick, you can look at that, I guess. Like, I wouldn't nitpick that, because I think you scored 15 runs against an ACC team. Like, let's take it and move on. But so those two teams I think have been the most impressive for me. I also apologize. The AC in my room just kicked on, and it is loud. So I will talk a little bit louder in case it is loud on your end. My apologies. DNC 86 says, regardless of what happens today in State versus UCLA, two things are true. State passes first test on playing real teams, and then 2, UCLA is legit. I agree on both. All right, let's see here. Who's your dad? He says, morning, Joe. We see how good Jake Dewar has been for A&M so far. Think we see the other FAU highly touted transfer right-hand pitcher MJ Bollinger. He hasn't appeared yet this season. Yeah, I got nothing on that. I don't know if it's an injury concern or what the deal is there necessarily. I'll have to do a little bit of digging there. I'm really not sure, to be honest with you. I hadn't heard anything injury-wise with him. It could just be that he fell far enough back in the pecking order. But that's a good note. That's something I'll dig into. All right, here we go. It is true. Everything is bigger in Texas. Yep, we're talking about the ballpark there. Yeah, thoughts on Vandy struggling, Austin? I just gave those, but a little reason for worry there, a little bit. Obi Kenobi 919 says Georgia scared me on Friday, but they looked much better yesterday. I mean, yeah, they outscored Oakland, and I get that it's Oakland, so sure, but they outscored Oakland 28-0 yesterday in 14 innings. Like that's a pretty impressive. It's a pretty impressive performance there against any opponent. Um, Kyle Lessig says, I'm newer to following D1 baseball and learning the ropes. Well, welcome. Has Mississippi State saved their best pitching for today's UCLA game, or are their best three pitchers very comparable? They have not saved their best pitching for today's game necessarily. Now, they do still have some really talented guys they haven't used, but they have used their two best starting pitchers in the first two games of the series. So, State's going to have to find something. State's going to have to find something on the mound to be able to slow down UCLA. UCLA has the same issue, though. Like, they didn't announce a starter for today's game. I think it's probably going to be Landon Stump for UCLA. He's the guy who started the last two Sundays. He's just not off to a great start, but he was a starting pitcher for them last year when they got to Omaha, so he's got ability. So I would say it's pretty comparable today, honestly. Yeah. And you because you say you're newer to D1 baseball, like typically you don't get a lot of saving in big time series and tournament stuff like that. You're not going to get a lot of saving arms for later in the weekend because typically you want to win the game that's in front of you and deal with the rest later. Austin says, been a crazy week for LSU. Last week, everyone was worried about the pitching and the hitting was great. This weekend, pitching looks great and hitters are lost. They have to get some more consistency. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree that it's been a little bit of a weird start. I think to me, it just comes back to like, as long as you're winning the games in which people are wondering about the quality of what you've got or worried about like what's happening, as long as you're winning the games, you kind of just move on. But yeah, it is a little bit strange that the offense has been a little bit stuck in neutral this weekend. A 3-1 win yesterday over Northeastern. But Jay Johnson's a pretty bottom line oriented guy, and as long as those struggles are coming in wins, I think he'll ultimately take it because I don't have any sort of worries. And we've seen the offense swing the bat well at times this season, so I'm not particularly worried about it. But we'll see as we move forward this weekend. They still got a couple games this weekend. Backbone says hello from 30,000 feet on American Airlines. Who's State starting today? I've been away this weekend. They did not announce a starter ahead of time. If somebody, if somebody has seen that they've announced a starter so far, I mean, I would guess it will be Charlie Foster, which I see Sven has put in the chat here. I would assume that as well. But if somebody has seen anything different, feel free to put it in the chat. Although I'm seeing now maybe they announced Duke Stone, so I don't know. But I had not seen this morning. I've been working on some other stuff, so I hadn't seen if they had announced something different. Grady Gardner says, "Go Big Red." Welcome to an SEC podcast, Grady, but we'll allow it. We'll allow it. Nebraska, I've always said Nebraska in terms of fan base is the SEC of the Big Ten, especially in baseball. They really draw for baseball. Win the series against Auburn on the road. What's your thought about the series finale? Huge for Nebraska to win one game, but winning the series will hold massive. Yeah, totally agree. Like, if Nebraska wants to be an at-large team, and I think they are capable of being that, I don't want to say you got to win this series, but you can really put a feather in your cap and set yourself up for putting together an at-large quality resume if you win this series today. I think that goes without saying. Just catching up here. Yeah, it's fair. Hunter Johnson says most of Virginia Tech runs late came off Bauer and Braden Booth, pitchers who are down the depth chart. That's fair. That's totally fair. And then says State has Ben Davis, Maddox Webb, Tyler Pitzer, Dane Burns, and Charlie Foster. I mean, yeah, that's a pretty good group. So I think they'll probably be. Yeah, and I see. Okay, Duke Stone today. Yeah. So yeah, Duke Stone on the mound, but I would expect we still see Charlie Foster unless they want to bump him back to Tuesday, and just maybe roll with him as a midweek starter for now. Like, we'll see. Joe, to recreate a scene from Moneyball, what round would you have drafted Chris Burke in? Look, Ben, you're not going to get me to say anything bad about my buddy Chris Burke. I would draft Chris Burke first overall every time, 1-1. Chris Burke is going 1-1 in my draft. Thank you, everyone. I'm now catching up on everyone yelling Duke Stone at me. All right, thank you, everyone. I know I asked for that, so but yes, Duke Stone. All right, let's go to hitter and pitcher of the day here. As I was catching up there, thanks for your patience there as I catch up on comments. Love all the conversation there, including when you yelled Duke Stone at me a bunch of times. All right, player of the day candidates: Justin LeBron for Alabama, 3 for 5 with a double. Obviously, there were the defensive worries there at the end of the game, but offensively he was swinging it well, 3 for 5 with a double. Ryan Wynn in game 1 of the doubleheader for Georgia, 2 for 3, 2 doubles, a walk, and 4 runs batted in. It was a weird doubleheader for Georgia in that they scored 28 runs, but there weren't a lot of – I was surprised when I opened up those box scores that there weren't a lot of guys with huge offensive days. It was a lot of guys with one – I mean, they got something for everybody, which is a good problem, a good thing to do. Like, it's certainly not a worry for Georgia. It's just that I kind of expected there to be guys with 3-4 hits, multiple home runs, something like that. There was a lot of guys just 1 or 2 hits. They got something for everybody. Mason McCrane of the McCrane baseball playing brothers for Auburn, 4 for 5 with a home run, 6 RBIs. Both of those guys have been such a pick-me-up for Auburn in their lineup. Nolan Stevens, 3 for 3 with a homer and a hit batter. Trey Gamble of Oklahoma, 2 for 4 with a double, a home run, and 4 runs batted in. A couple of big games there for the Sooners, and their 11-1 win over Gonzaga. That is another run rule win for Oklahoma. I believe that is 7 for them on the season now, run rule wins. Impressive stuff there. Aiden Teal from Mississippi State at a leadoff spot, 3 for 5, 2 stolen bases, 3 runs batted in. Ryder Woodson from Mississippi State, 3 for 5. Anthony Pack Jr. for Texas, 2 for 4 with 3 runs batted in. Texas a 5-2 win over Baylor. Luke Harrison really struggled with his command in this game. Got a relatively early hook because he had walked 5 batters. But Texas ultimately holds the Baylor lineup down really well. Otherwise, and even Harrison worked around a lot of that traffic early on in the game. So a good win there for Texas to get out of that game that could have been kind of ugly. To win an ugly game and just move on. And then Dom Decker is the player of the game for Ole Miss, 2 for 3 with 2 home runs and 2 walks. I make him the player of the game because I find it really interesting that Dom Decker for Murray State last year hit 0 home runs, not a single home run. And yesterday he had 2. Go figure. So good for Dom Decker. 2 home runs, 2 home runs in a game, 1 season after hitting not a single home run for Murray State. And if you remember, because they got Domall, he played in a bunch of games. They played, 60 odd games, like not a single home run in the Missouri Valley Conference. But he hits 2 yesterday. So good on Dom Decker. He is our player of the day. Switching over to pitchers now. The pitchers list was a little bit longer than the hitters list, which again kind of surprised me, but interesting stuff there. Landon Mack, Tennessee's win over Arizona State. Solid start for him. 5 innings pitched, 7 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Worked around some traffic, but turned in a really solid start against a good Arizona State lineup. So not the prettiest stat line there, but considering the opponent, you'll take that. Both pitchers that Ole Miss threw yesterday and a win over Ohio State. Cade Townsend, 5 shutout innings. Taylor Rabe in relief, 4 shutout innings. They combined to shut out the Buckeyes. 1 walk, 16 strikeouts between the two of them. A big game there for Ole Miss pitching. Connor Madison of Kentucky in the 3-0 win over St. John's. Kentucky with that victory. 4 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts. Ben Cleaver with a relatively short start. It sounds like it was not necessarily a physical concern. It was not the cleanest start for Ben Cleaver, and so they moved on. So Connor Madison, 4 shutout in relief in that game. Caden Aoki in game 1 of the doubleheader win for Georgia, 6 shutout innings there. Zach Brown, the starter in game 2 of the doubleheader, 4 shutout innings for him, as again, Georgia outscored Oakland 28-0 in 14 innings. That is worth reiterating. In a losing effort for South Carolina, Clemson took game 2 of that rivalry series 4-1. After the game, Eric Bakich made a reference to, we're not going to act like we won the World Series because we won 1 game, which sounds like it was a shot at South Carolina. So game 3 should be a little bit spicy between those two. Brandon Stone in relief, 4 2/3 innings, 3 hits, no runs, 1 walk, and 2 strikeouts. LJ Mercurius for Oklahoma, a 7 inning complete game, 1 hit, 1 run. It was unearned, 1 walk, and 9 strikeouts in that 11-1 win over Gonzaga. Cooper Moore for LSU in the 3-1 win over Northeastern. 7 2/3 really strong innings, more innings than anybody else on this list yesterday. Really strong start there. Tomas Valencius, 5 1/3, 4 hits, 2 runs in Mississippi State's victory over Virginia Tech. Ricky Reith for Florida. When Aiden King came out early, Ricky Reith picked up a lot of the slack there, gave up 1 run in his 4 innings of relief. Similarly, Wyatt Nato, when Austin Nye went out with an injury, he came on and threw 4 shutout innings, so really good stuff there. But the pitcher of the day is Hunter Dietz for Arkansas in a 9-0 win over UT Arlington. 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 8 strikeouts. And it's not just that his stat line is good, though obviously it is. He's the pitcher of the day because of the symbolism of it, that it's his first 2 starts have been rough. And, I was starting to get asked, like, hey, at what point does Arkansas need to consider making a change? Do you think they're going to make a change? And I was always pretty confident they were going to ride it out with Dietz and really give him a chance to work himself back into midseason form after missing basically the last 2 seasons. And now it looks like that patience has paid off with his strong start yesterday. It really sets him up for hopefully for him, for his sake and Arkansas's sake, more success moving forward. So Hunter Dietz, the pitcher of the day. All right. A couple more comments here. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Fair Ben says, I would have picked Burke in the 9th round, no signing bonus. Think that would have convinced him to go back to UTK. Yeah, I mean, I guess if that was your hope that you could get Chris Burke back to campus, I guess I understand that there. Tucker Medlin says it would make sense to move Foster back to Tuesday with us playing Southern Miss. I mean, yeah, fair. You've got a big midweek game. There's a chance if Southern Miss wins again today, there's a chance that Southern Miss game is maybe one of the biggest regular season games played in Hattiesburg in a long, long time. That atmosphere is going to be incredible. Looking forward to that. Joe, are you going to try to go to any games of the Dude this year? I hope so. I haven't been to the Dude since 2023. Part of the reason why that is because Mark lives a lot closer to the Dude. Mark can drive to the Dude, so it's a lot more convenient for him to get there. So he ends up going to the Dude a lot more than I do, but man, I hope to get back. Not only do I hope to get back for the baseball and the to just be in that stadium, but also for the good eating. Very much enjoyed my last time at the Dude and would love to get back. All right, let's see. Lindsey Crosby says, Nebraska's used a lot of pitching so far in the first 2 games, so someone's got to step up today. The Tigers have used 6 guys compared to Nebraska's 13. Yeah, and we talked about this. We talked about this just yesterday. That that's a thing for Nebraska. It feels like to me they don't know who they trust in the bullpen just yet, and so they're looking for answers. Whereas I think Auburn has answers. And in the game on Friday, it had answers, but those guys just didn't have their best day. I feel like Nebraska's in a much worse place where they don't even really know who their guys are yet. So I think that's well put, Lindsay. Nebraska's in just a bit of a pickle when it comes to their pitching. We're going to see some recycled pitchers today for sure. Ricky Reith is an elite name. Yeah, thank you for saying that there. Runes, good to see you, buddy. He says, first time, long time. Do you think this is the Joe's year? I think so. I always think so. I remain steadfast that we're running our program the right way and that success will follow. We're trying to stay focused on the process and not really be worried too much about the results. I hope the same for the Rune Dogs. Frankly, we have a lot of respect for the Rune Dogs organization. And we oftentimes use things that we see there as templates moving forward for our organization. And we understand that, you understand better than most that the process sometimes has to come before the results. Because if you focused on the results, I think the Joes and the Rune Dogs would be in a similar place down in the dumps about it. All right. Sven Krusberg says, I expect today at least 6 arms against UCLA. Situational pitching prediction 8-6 Diamond Dogs. I mean, yeah, that'd be a heck of a win. Let's go. I mean, I hope it's 8-6 because that means it's a close game. It means it should come down to the end, and it should be an awesome contest. So, all right, we'll get you out of here. But real quick, the games of the day are all 3 games at Globe Life. Mississippi State, UCLA, I think is probably the one on everybody's mind here. We've talked a lot about it today. But also Tennessee and Virginia Tech. Tennessee looking to have a winning weekend there. Evan Blanco on the mound. Texas A&M versus Arizona State looking to have a winning weekend there. They're sending Aiden Sims to the mound, so it should be a fun Sunday at Globe Life Field. I'm looking forward to keeping tabs on that as I sit in Frisco and watch Alabama try to go for 3-0. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of Weekend Waypoints. Thanks for your comments. Thanks for your conversation. Thanks for checking in. And even you, Runes, thanks for checking in, buddy. Good to talk to all you guys. We'll be back on Friday with a live episode of Weekend Waypoints. Enjoy the baseball today. I'll talk to y'all then.